Now, in 3 days, France will decide on a leader. But before that, French President Emmanuel Macron and far-right rival Marine Le Pen faced off in a high-stakes debate. The two leaders clashed bitterly over relations with Russia and the Islamic headscarf. During the acrimonious 3-hour live televised debate, Macron repeatedly landed punches on Le Pen over her record, while Le Pen sought to keep the focus on the government's performance. With Russia's invasion of Ukraine overshadowing the campaign, French President Emmanuel Macron strongly attacked his far-right election challenger for her links to Russia. Macron accused his far-right rival of being enthralled to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Macron zeroed in on a loan that Le Pen's party had taken from a Czech Russian bank ahead of her 2017 election campaign. Macron also referred to Le Pen's past recognition of Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Le Pen replied that she supports a free Ukraine after being accused by rival Macron of being dependent on the Russian regime. She brushed off Macron's suggestion that she is beholden to Russia and dismissed the charge of being compromised politically by the Russian bank loan.
Je l'ai dit de la manière la plus claire, je pense que... Pourquoi la France n'arrive jamais à défendre ses intérêts? Pourquoi moi qui ai été député européen... Il sait pertinemment que je suis une femme absolument et totalement libre et que je défends parce que je suis une patriote et que je l'ai démontré toute ma vie, la France et les Français, toujours, en toutes circonstances. Maintenant, ce que vous dites est faux plusieurs fois. D'abord, je vous ai retrouvé un tweet que j'avais fait le 9 novembre 2014. Je soutiens une Ukraine libre qui ne soit soumise ni aux États-Unis, ni à l'Union européenne, ni à la Russie.
Turning to Europe, Macron charged Le Pen with harboring the desire to pull France out of the European Union. Le Pen dismissed the charge of wanting to leave the EU. She insisted that she wanted to stay in the European Union but reform the bloc into an alliance of nations. In a bid to broaden her electoral appeal, Marine Le Pen has toned down her once staunchly anti-EU rhetoric.
Votre projet, quand on remet brique à brique les choses en place, c'est un projet qui ne dit pas son nom, mais qui consiste à faire sortir de l'Europe.
Il y a un nom, il s'appelle l'Europe des nations.
Oui, mais enfin, si c'est plus l'Union européenne, vous sortez de l'Union européenne, Mme Le Pen.
But the most explosive clash came when the rivals stated their policies on wearing of the Islamic headscarf. Le Pen confirmed she was sticking to her controversial policy of banning the hijab in public. She described it as a uniform imposed by Islamists. Macron responded that she will cause a civil war with such a move.
En aucun cas, mais vous êtes un peu climato-hypocrite. D'ailleurs, c'est peut-être pour ça que les gens ne croient pas à votre volonté de régler tous ces problèmes-là. Je suis pour l'interdiction du voile dans l'espace public. Je l'ai dit de la manière la plus claire. Je pense que le voile est un uniforme imposé par les islamistes.
Et donc avec moi, il n'y aura pas l'interdiction ni du foulard, ni de la kippa, ni de quelques signes religieux dans l'espace public. Parce que le principe d'égalité fait que si vous rentrez dans cette logique, Madame Le Pen, vous interdirez tous les signes religieux dans l'espace public et pas simplement le foulard.
Now, the two candidates kept accusing each other of failing to respond to voters' real concerns. There were intense exchanges on concerns such as the rising cost of living. Le Pen has made it a major feature of her campaign.
Vous n'allez pas faire les salaires, Madame Le Pen.
Et vous ne ferez pas non plus les primes, monsieur.
Non, mais d'ailleurs, je ne le dis pas. Voilà. Je dis, j'enlève les charges du côté employeur, j'enlève les impôts. Mais vous essayez de faire croire que vous allez augmenter les salaires de 10% et que ce sera récurrent. Je dis juste non.
Now, France faces a stark choice in the second round runoff between the centrist Macron and the anti-immigration Le Pen. Both the candidates are seeking to sway undecided voters, while Emmanuel Macron is seeking a second presidential term. Le Pen is hopeful of becoming the country's first far-right head of state. A Snap opinion poll for BFM TV said 59% of viewers found Macron the most convincing and 39% favoured Le Pen. However, it is not clear how it would translate into voting intentions on Sunday. Now, for more updates and insights on this, we're now being joined by our correspondent Ross Cullen live from Paris. Also, senior journalist Lisa Louise is joining us live from Paris. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming to you first, Ross, the presidential debate saw the two contenders trade barbs and accusations. Take us through the key highlights of this high-stakes debate.
Yeah, the nearly 3 hours of debate on Wednesday evening local time saw them cover a wide range of issues. It started in pretty fertile ground for Marine Le Pen, talking about purchasing power. She says she's close to communities across the country. Since last year, she's been campaigning on the cost of living crisis, understanding and listening to voters' concerns about rising prices, rising inflation. She said that President Macron was distant, not being close to voters, remaining in Paris and not understanding the real concerns of people in villages and towns across the country. Then it moved on to the war in Ukraine, and that was less stable ground for the far-right challenger. Macron was comfortable in his role as the wartime diplomat, regularly speaking to President Biden, President Putin, President Zelensky, and he's able to draw on that experience to demonstrate his diplomacy. She was challenged on the fact that she had to take this loan for her party from a Russian bank, and also for her past pro-Putin sympathies.
Ross, also opinion polls show Macron in the lead. How will this translate to voter intentions? And as we know, turnout continues to be a sticking point. What do the trends tell us at this point?
Yeah, it didn't really tell us that much in comparison to 2017. Last time around, when it was Macron versus Le Pen in the second round in 2017 in the previous presidential election, to use cricketing terminology, then Macron bowled Le Pen out for well under 100. This time round, though, it was more of a slogfest, attritional, a high-scoring draw, with neither side managing to land a knockout blow. And so it remains the status quo, where Macron has a lead of about 10 points, around about 55% to 45% of votes at this stage if the election were to be held today. There are 2 more days of campaigning, Thursday today and Friday, before the election on Sunday, this runoff round. So at the moment it does seem that neither of them was able to make a decisive play in this debate, and so it will remain as it is at the moment, which is Emmanuel Macron leading the polls over Marine Le Pen.
All right. Ross, thank you for all your updates on this. Coming to you now, Lisa, thank you for staying with us. EU membership, the Russia-Ukraine war and the Islamic headscarf. These 3 issues dominated the debate. What is your take on the stance of both the contenders, and how will it affect their respective campaigns in this final stage?
Well, as Ross just said, I think Marine Le Pen, she fared quite well compared to her performance 5 years ago, where she literally crashed in the TV duel ahead of the second runoff vote. However, when it came to these topics you just mentioned, the headscarf, for example, Emmanuel Macron, he called her out, saying that such a measure is anti-constitutional. It would actually go against the principle of equality here in France. And Emmanuel Macron has been calling out Marine Le Pen over the past weeks, but also last night, obviously, on certain topics. Because when you look at her program, at Marine Le Pen's program, you can tell that actually when you analyze it, that, yes, certain measures go against EU rules. For example, the so-called national priority she wants to install for products and for certain areas in the country. And Emmanuel Macron has underlined yesterday that 80% of Marine Le Pen's measures in her program would actually go against EU rules and therefore lead to a Frexit, an exit of France out of the European Union.
All right, Lisa, do stay on with us now. In 3 days, France will elect its leader. French President Emmanuel Macron and far-right rival Marine Le Pen faced off in a high-stakes debate. The 2 leaders clashed bitterly over relations with Russia and also the Islamic headscarf, the issues that dominated the debate. During the acrimonious 3-hour live televised debate, Macron repeatedly landed punches on Le Pen. Le Pen sought to keep the focus on the government's performance, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine overshadowing the campaign. Once again, Lisa joins us. Lisa, how effectively do you think the two have been able to communicate their policies and plans to the people of France? Do you think they've been able to address the pertinent issues here?
In last night's debate, it was important for Marine Le Pen, first of all, to show that she was not the panicky candidate of 5 years ago, and that she had what it takes to become president. Emmanuel Macron, he wanted to defend what he has done over the past 5 years while in power. I think both managed to do that, and yet it looks like Emmanuel Macron came out as the winner of this debate, according to the Snap poll you mentioned earlier, but also when you look at actually the facts, because numerous times he told her, these facts are wrong, this is not correct, and you're not telling the truth. I think both candidates managed to make some progress, but Emmanuel Macron might have come out as the winner indeed.
And of course, the big question here, what are your expectations with regards to the final outcome? Macron is in the lead in the opinion polls. Do you think Le Pen will be able to close the gap?
Historically speaking, in France, a debate has never turned around things here. And it looks unlikely that this debate turned things around either, And so the most likely outcome at this stage is that Emmanuel Macron might win the presidential elections. However, as you said, there's still 3 days ahead of us, and you never know. I mean, in the past, polls in France have been very accurate, and pollsters have been underlining that. Also, compared to other countries such as the UK or the US, where there was a doubt just, in 2017, for example, that polls in France might also maybe indicate a wrong result. So far in French history, that has not been the case. If this continues, that would indicate that Emmanuel Macron might win this election. But as I said, you never know.
All right, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with your analysis. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.